Okay, in this video I'm going to go over many common problems or apparently errors in MayaStar that come up and I get asked about all the time. They're how can I say, they're not mistakes for the most part. They're not errors. It's understandable why people have these same questions asked over and over again. So anyway, so I'm going to go over a few of them just so that those who are just starting out with MayaStar, they'll know what's going on and it'll be a lot more able to get up and running a lot faster. Okay, one of the things about MayaStar that's very common with somebody who's just starting out with MayaStar and just starting out with Maya a lot of times, or are using a brand new installation of Maya, is that Maya has some defaults that are different than Second Life. And so I'll kind of go over with them as we go through. So here we are, we're pretending like this is a fresh, brand new installation of MayaStar or installation of Maya. And somebody's going to activate MayaStar for the first time. So you've installed MayaStar and you've got it to appear at the top here, the menu, and you click on it and you click on Activate MayaStar, and a couple of things usually happen that we get errors from, or questions about, people thinking that they're errors but they're really not. Okay, first thing you'll notice is that the avatar is on its side. That's number one question, is why is the avatar on its side? Is there something wrong? Did I do something wrong? Is usually the question. No, you didn't do anything wrong if the avatar is on the side. The reason the avatar is on the side is that the up axis in Second Life is Z, but the default up axis in Maya is Y, and you can see over here, you can see that Y is up. And so it's really super easy to fix. All you have to do is, come up here to Window, come down here to Settings and Preferences, and you can either hit Control P is usually the default, or you just hit Preferences. And then under Categories, you want to come down here to Settings. And then you see World Coordinate System, and it has up axis Y. You just want to click on up axis Z and click Save. Okay, now our avatar is standing upright. This is the correct orientation for Second Life, which is Z up and X is forward and back and Y is left and right. And so that's the correct orientation for Second Life. Okay, the next common question or common question I get, or that it seems to be an error that really isn't, is the skeleton. Is they turn on the skeleton and they get this what looks like a bunch of blue spaghetti or hairball, or whatever you want to call it. And again, this is not an error. This is part of the reason this is like this is because the avatar is so originally Linden Lab created the avatar very tiny, and the avatar in Second Life is actually much bigger. I'll show you what its size. If you come here to meter, centimeter size, avatar size, here's meter scale. Although whoops, it still looks like spaghetti. That's because we just scaled up the skeleton. Anyway, that's the actual size of the avatar in Second Life. So let me go back to centimeter size and get back to the spaghetti, the blue spaghetti problem. Okay, how do we fix this? It is very simple. All you have to do is you come on here to Display, which is right next to Window, and come down here to Animation, and then come over here to Joint Size. I think the default joint size is 1. I usually like having it at 0.05. And you'll notice at 0.05 when I make the avatar invisible, looks a lot better. Again, that's simply because Linden Lab had created the avatar super small when they originally created it, and all the joint positions, such as the pelvis, is 1.6 centimeters or whatever, or is that centimeters or meters? I can't remember. Anyway, so it's just they just made the avatar very, very small. Don't know if that was a mistake or done on purpose, but the avatar is very tiny in Maya, and it's that way because that's the way Linden Lab originally created the avatar on Maya at that scale. So that fixes the blue spaghetti problem. Another common question I get a lot is that when activating MayaStar, they get in the script editor, they'll get a whole bunch of error messages popping up as they activate MayaStar. Come up here, or it will pop up on the screen right here. It's really, if you look at them, it's really not an error. The reason those things come up, if you look at the error and they talk about a TIFF file, well, there's 3 TIFF files, one for the head, one for the upper body, and one for the lower body, and that's the skin she's wearing. And the only way I could figure out how to get the skin to come in properly on anybody's computer, no matter what their configuration of their computer was to put the TIFF files in where you put the mel scripts, which is in the scripts folder, so that the TIFF files for the skin was in the same folder as your mel scripts folder, and since it's different on everybody's computer, the scripts folders are in slightly different places. That's why you're coming up with that error. And so just ignore that error. As long as you can see the skin texture, you're good to go. I thought about putting the skin texture just on the C drive, but not everybody installs Maya on a C drive. So I figured leave it alone. It works for everybody no matter where they put it. If anybody knows how to fix that particular problem, that would be awesome, because it's an annoying little error that pops up. I'm pretty sure the way you can fix that error, if you really wanted to, would be to, like select the head and come in here to attributes, and then come over here to avatar head texture, and then we have the color, and you click on there, and you can see it says on my computer, see documents and setting, Heather M, my documents, Maya 8.0, because that's the version of my Maya scripts folder, and then there's the MayaStar skin texture. If you wanted to get rid of that error, all you'd have to do is click here, and then go to where you saved all the files for MayaStar, where you installed them. Mine's in my documents, Maya 8.0. Yours would be different. It could be 2016 or 2015 or 14 or 13 or whatever scripts, and then you would see the texture. Here's MayaStar head skin texture, and then you would click on that, and then you would click open, and now you have the right path to where your skin texture is, and do the same thing for the other bodies. Okay, and then what you would do is you would go, we'll close this, we don't need this open right now. You would go File, Save As, and you would go back to where you installed MayaStar. For me, it's my documents, Maya 8.0 scripts, and there's MayaStar. So I would just click on it and click save, and it'd say, you sure you want to save over this? And you click and you'd say yes. I'd probably make a backup copy of it first, just to make sure that you always have the original in case something goes wrong. And you can see I have a backup copy, but I have a ton of backup copies. As I've developed MayaStar, every version that comes out, I make up a new backup, and then I'll make a backup of the backup, or as I am working on coming out with a new update for MayaStar. So that's why I have a ton of backups. So anyway, so you just save over this MayaStar, or make a copy of it and then save over it. and click save, and it says, sure you want to write over this? You say yes. Now what will happen is anytime you go MayaStar, activate MayaStar, it will not give you that error anymore because it will know where these skin textures are. So you won't get those same textures. Another common error that sometimes pops up, depending on how good of a job I did when I was cleaning things up, is that if I come in here to my plugins manager, if I originally saved MayaStar with OpenColada loaded, it puts that into the file, so it looks for that OpenColada as it's importing and says, hey, you don't have the OpenColada plugin that you need. You don't really need the OpenColada. It's just meant that I overlooked that particular thing when I was cleaning up the file, and it's I have to jump through some hoops to get rid of that. But I tried to remember to do that when I save my MayaStar file. But sometimes I forget, so if you get an update and it starts giving you, hey, this OpenColada is missing, don't worry about it, just ignore it. Hopefully I'll catch it and I'll get another update out real soon. Okay, but it won't harm, it's not an error, it's not going to affect anything. Okay, the next very common problem. Now this is actually a real problem, not just a sort of a weird setting or something, is sometimes, and more often than I'd like it to happen, it depends on what version people are using, what version of Windows they're using, and their personal computer, that it's the way it's set up, that when you have certain, and I've never been able to figure out the pattern as to, is it a particular version of Maya that has this problem, or is it just Windows only, or is it XP, or is it Windows 7 or Windows 8 or Windows 10 or whatever. I haven't been able to figure out the what particularly causes this particular problem to pop up. If you have a problem when you go to export your DAE file, say this was a mesh and you went to export file, export selection, and you typed in the name you wanted, and you'd selected the Collada format that you wanted to export out, and then you had clicked export, and Maya just froze, and you waited like 10 minutes and it's just sitting there like cranking numbers away and nothing's happening, or if it actually crashes. There are two things you can do. One will probably fix it right away, and the other one is something you'll have to look into a little bit deeper. The first thing that you can do is, before you export out your DAE file, definitely go File and save your file before you try to export, so that you have a copy of it in case it crashes. Okay, so that's number one. And I'm sure if you've crashed a couple of times or it's frozen a couple of times, you probably already are doing that, because so I'm sure you're already doing that if that's happened to you. Okay, so the first thing that you can do is you can come up here to MayaStar, and right underneath Activate MayaStar is Remove MayaStar Not Skeleton. Now what this does is it removes everything except for the skeleton, your mesh, and a number of the fitted mesh avatars. Or not fitted mesh avatars, the custom avatars that I made for weight transferring. So I'll come here to the outliner and I'll show you. Here's the head, the upper body, lower body, right and left eyeballs. These are for the appearance controller, editor, the sliders. Here's the avatar for automatic mesh resizing. These are the controller bases for the auto resizing. Here are the 4 avatars that I created to transfer weights from. Female fitted mesh, male fitted mesh avatars. Female not fitted mesh. I should probably change that to classic rigging. These are just to the M bones. And male not fitted mesh. This is for the classic rigging. And you have your skeleton and the animated avatar. That's for the animations when you want her to walk and stuff like that. Okay, so what this does is, by clicking Remove MayaStar Not Skeleton, is it removes all of this, most of this except for the skeleton, your mesh, and these 4 avatars. And I'll do it and I'll show you. Ta-da! So what that does is it simplifies the scene it simplifies the scene. So whatever was causing your computer to freeze or to hang up, and as if it was frozen, or to crash, it gets rid of it. And so that you're going to have you're not going to have nearly as much, less than the scene to go wrong, less for it to cause the problem. So it will probably export just fine at that point, or at this point where everything else after we've removed it. And when you export, nowadays you only have to select your mesh. You don't have to select the skeleton. You just click on your mesh, whether it's clothing or hair or whatever, and go File, Export Selection. You no longer have to select the bones and the skeleton to export out. Okay, so that's step one. That will probably fix it right away. If you really want to find out what the problem is that's causing the errors, so that you don't have to worry about removing MayaStar every time you go to export, because you might forget, and then you might forget to save, and then it freezes or it crashes and you just lost all your work, and now you're really pissed off at me for it crashing all the time. So I really highly recommend you try this next thing. Okay, so we're gonna, and if you want to get that stuff back after you export your DAE file, all you have to do is hit Control-Z a couple of times and it all comes back. Okay, so here's what you can do, and I wish I had a newer version of Maya because I could show you a lot easier. Okay, most likely is what's causing this to crash when you're exporting out as a DAE file is a setting in your DAE export settings. And you don't really want to change your export settings from here, going to, export selection, settings, and here, let me turn on Open Collada. Plugin Manager, and we'll turn on Open Collada, and I'll turn on Autodesk's Collada plugin. Okay. Now, when you're importing a DAE file, you only want one of these turned on. And I have all other versions of Autodesk's Collada also installed. You just have to make sure the MLL file before you install a new one you've renamed it, the original, to something else, so it doesn't get overridden. But you can actually have multiple versions of Autodesk's Collada installed. I would never have more than one of these loaded at a time because they start to conflict with each other. Also, importing, never have more than one Collada open at a time because they can conflict with each other. But exporting, I found that I can have Open Collada and Autodesk Collada also loaded at the same time. Okay, long explanation. Okay, so you don't really want to change the options here where you go Export Selection, Open Collada. You can change some of them here if you really want to. Let's see. So some of the settings, but I know there's even more settings when you go to export it. But I'll go over some of these here since these are where I have some options. Obviously, you want to export your polygon meshes. You do not want to export your cameras or the animations or invisible nodes or export constraints or lights. You do want to export your joints and skin. The skin is what if you're exporting something that's rigged, obviously you want joints, and the skin is the weights to those joints. You want to export the normals for the mesh and the texture coordinates. Let's see, and that's about it. Those are the only things you want to export. So you can set them here, if you really want to. But I know that when you go to Export Selection, now mine doesn't have it. Newer versions of Maya, over here on the right side of the screen, you'll find a whole bunch of options. And one of the options that newer versions of Maya have that I do not have is a scaling option. So you go under Units, come over here to the right side, you come down here to units, you turn it on. You want to turn off auto scaling. That seems to be a big problem that causes it to crash a lot, is the auto scaling. So you want to turn auto scaling off, and you want to set it to either, most people set it to meter in that units. They'll set it to meter, and that works just fine. If your mesh comes in really tiny when you res it on the ground, if you set it to meter, it will be normal size. But if you leave it, if you set it to centimeter, it will still come in really small. So for you, depending on how you've created your mesh, you might want it set at meter or centimeter. I find most people set it to meter, and that seems to be really good. So I know the meter works. Pretty sure the centimeter should work too. But like I said, turn off auto scaling and manually set it to meter or centimeter. I don't think this opens up those options. And it didn't. That was interesting. When I clicked on options, oh, here we go. These are the same options that they were before. Okay, now I'm going to try and export just to see if there's different settings for the DAE FBX. This is the Autodesk Collada exporter here. That's for Open Collada. DAE / or underscore FBX is Autodesk's version, and as you can see, there's no options, for this one. Even if I click on export, there is no options when I click on options. Yeah, except for that I can set more for I can set more options for Open Collada. Although, wait a minute, I think I might be able to set, here, let me turn off and turn on 2012. And refresh and close. And, yeah, change that to DAE. Does it give me any more options? Export selection. No. And just to be on the safe side, export selection, and yeah, it doesn't give me any more options to export. So yeah, and so you'll have to go through those options. Like I said, turn off all the things you don't need. You don't need animation, you don't need lights, all that stuff you don't need. You can set it to Z up. You can, on the newer versions of Maya, Autodesk, for options, you can export out it triangulated if you want it to, because it will, whatever mesh you upload to Second Life will automatically be triangulated by Linden Labs uploader. Although if you want to save a little bit of time, you could tell it to triangulate as it creates the DAE file. That would probably make it upload a little bit faster, since Linden Labs uploader wouldn't have to do the work then. So anyway, so if you just turn off all those things, and you only have to set them once, then try exporting out without doing remove MayaStar not skeleton, and you'll probably find that your avatar or your mesh will export out just fine without freezing up or crashing anymore. And so so yes, that's about it. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? No, nothing else that I can think of that is common problems for MayaStar. So yep, so that's about it. So hopefully we'll see you at the next video, and yep, we'll see you then. Bye-bye. Okay, I almost forgot to ask. I almost forgot to tell you. One of the things about Maya is if you crash anything that you've set, so say you had a problem with the giant blue spaghetti monster thing with the thing. If you, so when we change this, the point size. If you change the point size here, or the display size, the joint display scale size. And if Maya crashes and doesn't close, if it crashes, it'll lose this setting. So next time you imported MayaStar or activated MayaStar, you'd have the blue spaghetti monster back again. Or if the avatar was on its side and you changed it to Z up axes and then it crashed at some point and you didn't close Maya, it would lose that setting. So even though you changed it in the preferences, it would have lost that setting. Maya, what happens is when you go File, Exit, or you click over here to close the program down, one of the things it does when it's closing down, you notice that the program doesn't shut off that second, it takes a few seconds to shut down, is it actually saves all of those settings into a file, so that if it crashed before it had a chance to save those settings, it's going to go back to the previous settings. Same thing will happen if you create a new button, on one of the shelves and you crash, it's going to lose that button. So you got to keep that in mind. And the other thing to keep in mind is if you add any Mel scripts to the scripts folder, that Maya only looks at those scripts when it first starts. When you start Maya, it looks at that folder. So if you put a Mel script in that folder afterwards, it won't see it because it only looks at that folder when Maya first starts up. That's why you have to close Maya and start it up again in order, for it to be able to see those scripts. The new scripts that you added. Yeah, you can see I have a ton of little things that I've collected over the years. So I've made a lot of buttons over the years to do different things, and then Maya's crashed, and then I go to open up Maya again, and my button that I just made is missing because I forgot that I had to close the program. And I made the button and I didn't close the program right away, and I went on working, and then it crashed, and then I forgot that I didn't close the program to save the button. Let's see, I think that's about it. Yeah, I'll do another video that maybe I'll go over my favorite little buttons and things that I've found over the years that does some really awesome things. All of them free. One I just recently rediscovered, or was told reintroduced again to, was Roadkill. That is a wonderful thing for UV mapping, and it's free. Like I said, I'll do another video, perhaps. I think I'll do a video where I'll go over my favorite little tools that I've discovered over the years that are awesome. I use them all the time. But that's a whole nother video. So awesome. Well, I will see you guys in the next video, and have a great day. Thanks. And thank you for buying MayaStar.